My name is David Overall, and I am the Dungeon Master of Gratimore, a Pathfinder RPG. In Episode 0, I will briefly explain the Pathfinder game system and fantasy setting, and how I use it to build my own campaign setting. I will also give a little history and background on the world of this game, the land of Esperana, the kingdom of Luminary, and the city of Gratimore itself. Pathfinder is a fantasy role-playing game created by Jason Bowman using modified rules from Dungeons & Dragons version 3.5. The reason I've been using Pathfinder is because it's a game system that I've been playing with for years. It's so far been my favorite, even though I'll occasionally play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Pathfinder has a rich and expansive setting and rule set, comprising many books and supplemental material, and while my game doesn't take place in the official Pathfinder setting of Orion, it has inspired me to create a setting of my own, the world of Esperana. In creating the world of Esperana, I used many elements of the lore of Orion and the Pathfinder universe, such as the Undersea Gods. They've been literally transplanted into the pantheon and lore of Esperana, being the main gods of worship for the elves, men, dwarves, and other races that live in the land. Now, let's discuss the background of Esperana. The whole of Esperana is divided into 6 diverse regions and 4 major kingdoms. In the center, we have the aptly named Heartland. The Heartland is a region of fertile river valleys, wide open fields, and rolling hills. It's considered the breadbasket of Esperana. Every major kingdom holds a major claim to a bit of the Heartland in order to grow food for their citizens and patrons. Even with this diversity, the Heartland doesn't have a set or defined culture like the other kingdoms do. Along with humans and some elves and dwarves, the Heartland is home to the halflings, who have the largest concentrated population of their race in the major towns of the Heartland. On the western border is the Red Heartwood, the second largest forest of Esperana. It runs from the southern border almost all the way to the northern half of the Heartland, and it spreads into the easternmost kingdom of Esperana, the Elven covens of the sun and the moon. The covens of the sun and the moon are a high elf kingdom. High elves are the aloof cousins of the wood elves, who live over in the western throes of Esperana.
An min menaken, lekena imben teledale. Kea, vedori, Anna Simone.
High elves live on the highest peaks of the tallest mountains, yearning to reach for the divine sky in their ivory towers and marble citadels. High elves have a deep magical tradition and a long lineage of religious fervor. High elves are probably the most secluded race of Esperana, coming pretty close to the dwarves of the Golden Desert. As such, they are usually viewed with disdain by the other races, who believe that the High Elves think themselves above all the others who dwell below them.
Erasen! Koalmin le dovaya sen megrele! Malan pelo al kelo esen! Kilo amin!
To the north of the Covens and the Heartland is the Stormwind Junta. They are not a uniform group united by a political government like the other kingdoms. It is more accurate to describe them as a collection of human tribes who identify under a strong history of military tradition and together form a military junta known as the Stormwing Legion. The Stormwings once held more power back in the day, but since the land has not had a proper war in ages, their military might has waned over the years, militias and armies only protecting and covering the territory that they already have a de facto claim over. However, you will be hard-pressed to find any better foot soldiers in an army, and the Stormwing Junta boasts some of the best beast masters and beast riders ever seen in the 4 kingdoms. To the southwest lie the dwarven strongholds of the Golden Desert. Torrig, the god of the dwarves, is believed to have used its clay to mold the first dwarves in his image. For millennia, the dwarves hold a staunch tradition of religious practice, dedicated craftsmanship, and pursuit of perfecting warfare.
Itmir pitirinsin, minnudu, imrid amrat ursul, ulrustezun.
Even though their claims hold the entirety of the vast Golden Desert and some parts of the Heartland, most dwarven strongholds and cities lie along the Iron Mountains, an enormous mountain range that expands across the southwestern region of Esperana and far down south, well outside of the land. To the northwest grows the Vriheim Timberland, home of the Wood Elves. Remember when I said that the Red Heartwood was the second largest forest in Esperana? That's because the largest forest expanse is the Vriheim Timberlands. It would take the Red Heartwood to grow in size tenfold to even match the size of the Vriheim Timberlands. The forest is so thick, so massive, and so full of dangerous wildlife that has never been fully explored, even by the Wood Elves, who call it their home. The Wood Elves who live in Vriheim live in cities literally grown out of the tops of the trees. It is said that all Elven life originated in the Vriheim forest. It's even debated by scholars that all life itself came from the Vriheim forest. The Wood Elves believe in living in tandem with nature, never destroying or cutting down the massive trees of the forest in order to build structures. Instead, they literally manipulate roots and branches in order to create intricate and beautiful homes, bridges, and other structures from them. And last, but definitely not least, is the Southern Kingdom, considered the jewel of Esperana, the Kingdom of Luminary. The Kingdom of Luminary is the smallest kingdom in terms of land, but it is easily the wealthiest of the four kingdoms by far. Comprising mostly of the lowland deltas and the southern coast of Esperana, the kingdom controls 80% of the imports entering the country, and many of the rivers that empty into the delta travel as far north as the southern border of the Stormwind junta, allowing merchants from the capital city, aptly named Luminary, to transport goods to almost anywhere in Esperana. Because of this vast amount of wealth, every other kingdom, even the Elven Coven, eye these white golds with envy and jealousy. On top of the kingdom rivalries, and possibly rich noble families strive to outdo each other financially in order to climb the royal ladder, be it through legal business practices or underhanded espionage and assassination. Luminary is an oligarchy, meaning the ruling class are also the wealthiest people in the nation. The king or queen own the most land, the most ships, the largest armies, control the most trade routes, and have the best connections overseas, at home, or in other kingdoms. The logic is, whoever owns the most stuff and has the most assets can best run the country. Now, while technically anyone can amass wealth in Luminary and rise to power, nobles make sure to keep the money flowing out of the reach of commoners, to best protect their own interests and to keep the status quo. Like I said, the Kingdom of Luminary is a small kingdom, with all the major cities being lucrative ports. The capital, Luminary, is the largest. Cape Town, on the southern peninsula, is the second largest, and the smallest of the three, but still one of the largest cities in the whole of Esperana, is a city named Gratimore. Gratimore's urban sprawl of townhouses, shops, smithies, forges, manors, and keeps span about a rough radius of 2.5 miles from the coast. Within those 2.5 miles lives more than 100,000 people. To give you an idea, that is about the population density of London during the height of the Middle Ages. Gratimore doesn't have the grandeur of the capital, or even the quaintness of Cape Town. It is just pure, unadulterated, medieval urban sprawl. 3 powerful families used to reside in Gratimore, controlling it either in the courts, in the ports, or in the shadows. The Orion family, the wealthiest family of Gratimore, They are a family of lawyers, bailiffs, and courtesans. They held power in the laws of the city and had the closest connection to the nobles in the capital city of Luminary. The Travois family, a family of merchants. They controlled most of the docks and trade guilds in the city. They were the second richest family, only surpassed by the massive fortune of the Orions. They are one of the few noble families to have risen from the bottom to the top of the food chain, and therefore are hated by the Orions. The Kent family, a family of landowners and knights. They were entrusted by the capital to control the city militia. Their loyalty to the state was unquestioned by the city and its citizens. That is until capital militia arrived to their keep to arrest members of the family. Before anyone knew what was going on, the Kent keep was held under siege, and the Kents raised their army to fight off capital troops. Fighting bled into parts of the city, and riots sprang up in the chaos. Battles drew to a climactic fervor, and before the end of the month, it was over. When the smoke cleared, the Gratimore militia was put down. The Kent keep was captured and burned, and the entire Kent family was slaughtered. But another unexpected thing happened. The capital militia came for the arrest of the Travois family as well. Unable to put up as much of a fight, almost every member of the family was arrested, tried by the royal court for treason, and executed. Only one member of the family was spared this fate, and that is an enigmatic man known only as Mr. Travois. Fast forward a year after the fact. The battle is now known as the Gratimore Uprising, or the Summer Revolt. The Kents are just a memory now to the population. Damages to the city infrastructure are repaired quickly. Once the last capital troops leave the city, the Orion family is given control of the city keeps and city militia. Mr. Travois, on the other hand, is granted the land titles that once belonged to the Kents. It seems that everything is returning to normal. And, on the south side of Gratimore, a new gang of street thieves has just opened up shop.